You know,
I'm a radio guy. That's why I look this way.
well, I'm just a nerd.
Okay.
So,
Well,
yeah.
maybe the Senate needs a new nerd.
Well, I think the Senate probably needs a couple nerds instead of fewer lawyers and insurance agents.
Exactly. In fact, hey, let's start out. There may be some people watching that don't know you that well, or they've heard of you, but who are you? So maybe John, you could tell us a little bit about yourself, just a little brief history. How you got to
Well, how I got to where I'm at.
Yeah.
Okay. I grew up in Shelby, Iowa.
Well,
533 people. Went to Shelby Tenant Community High School. Kind of unusual guy. I went to college on a combination football, drama, and academic scholarship.
Wow.
But that was back in the days when I didn't need to pay for school, but back in those days, you could earn enough money in the summer to pay to go to school.
Oh, sure.
Either trade school or college.
Right.
For the year. I mean, that's really sad with that right now. And then after that, when I was going to college, I was an intern for a company called Univac and got to help the people that were doing the communications programming for the moon landing.
Okay.
So I got a nice little medallion from
that's
President Nixon saying thank you. And then taught high school for a few years. And really what I kind of thought what happened on that is I was going to become a professional football player.
Okay.
The only thing I was missing was talent.
Okay, that helps.
That helps.
Yeah.
It's just I was good, but not good. So, but anyway, so I taught high school for a few years when I had the tryouts, and then I went into the computer programming business. They asked me when I was teaching college why I didn't have a degree in computer science, and you know what? In 1968, they didn't have degrees in computer science. So did some programming for an actuarial company, which we figured out death rates for the insurance policies.
Oh, okay.
And then went to work for Honeywell in research and got to work on the Patriot missile, the space shuttle, and the space station.
Okay. So you were, when you worked on it, were you in Houston or were you?
No, I was in Minneapolis.
Oh, you were in Minneapolis.
I was in Minneapolis. Okay. I got to walk into the space shuttle when we were working on the gyroscope. It was sitting in a big building down in St. Louis Park.
Okay.
And that was fun and interesting, and just got to work our way through all of this to see what was happening on that. And then back in 1989, I went out on my own.
Okay.
So doing contracts. One of the things was a contract for Honeywell that I did. They used to have people go around, 6 guys go to each city, which was 93 cities and 106 different offices.
Wow.
Every 3 months to update the software. And I managed to write a program that would do that. I could do that every week in my office with 3 people on there doing it on that. And so we had to basically save Honeywell $2 million every 3 months.
Sure, because you got to work from home.
Well, yeah, my home office,
Yes.
my home away from home. If my,
Right.
If my kids ever got to see me when I was doing that, but and then retired, got sick, had to go back to work to get insurance on there because they took me off anything that I could get for benefits because I had earned too much money in my life. And I went from being sick, I went from being well off to totally be retired to being about $200,000 in debt.
Okay.
So I had to go to work again. And it's lucky I was a computer person because we tend to get paid better than other people that do more valuable work.
Okay.
But did that. And so I taught college for about 2 different schools for about 15 years. I retired again. I lasted all of 2 months, Cliff.
Wow.
Being retired because that's just not my way. And I opened up my computer shop here and kind of became when it comes to my politics, I actually went to the Republican state convention in Iowa when I was teaching down there, but I kind of switched to a Democrat over the last, say, 20 years based on my beliefs and what happens. I wouldn't say I'm totally progressive, but I'm not totally conservative when it comes to, so I could treat each issue a little bit differently based on what I consider facts, and every time I say something, I generally looked at least 2 to 3 sources to see if my numbers are right and where that comes from.
Okay,
So-
before you say something or do something.
Well, unless it's to my wife where I get in trouble, but
Right.
and then 2 years ago I ran for Senate this time, and that was more based on healthcare.
So that was the main reason the first time
First
you
time I
ran
ran
was
was healthcare.
healthcare. What were some of the issues at healthcare that you didn't like or maybe you wanted to change?
Well, I didn't like the fact that a person could become bankrupt and still be a viable person, add to the community on there, just because you got sick.
Right.
Okay, just because you get sick doesn't mean that when you get better, that you have to spend the rest of your life in debtor's prison or
Right.
whatever. I mean,
I understand.
so I think that healthcare is very important. It still is very important on there, and we need to make sure that. Well, it's kind of sad the fact that we are 24th worst in the developed countries in infant death.
Are you talking about the United States then?
Yeah, United States.
No, I've heard that Minnesota is one of the top states for healthcare. Is that true?
Yeah, well, it is. It has been traditionally one of the top. Well, as long as we have Mayo.
Right. That probably puts the numbers up.
Okay, and we are a little bit lucky here in Long Prairie because we've got good health care in this area.
Right.
But I've also been told if it weren't for the Affordable Care Act, that some of these clinics would have to close because 60 to 70% of their incomes comes from the Affordable Care Act.
Okay.
And I think it would be terrible to have to drive 50, 60 miles to get to a healthcare. You and I could have a heart attack anytime. We might not make 60 miles to, the St. Cloud
Right.
to do all that. So we have to make sure that we keep the healthcare that we have here and that we have healthcare in some of the areas that is still lacking. Because driving around my area, there are areas in there that are about 40, 50 miles away from a good hospital.
How can you make healthcare affordable for everyone? Because sometimes people who are basically living on the basic income or a little over healthcare can take a big cut out of their way if they don't get help from their employer.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things. We have an employer-based healthcare, and if the employer does not have good healthcare plans,
Right.
it doesn't help on there. Okay, I'll just give you an example. My daughter lives in Australia.
Okay.
Okay, when she had her baby, they had a choice there. They pay about $4,000 more in taxes every year than if they didn't have the Australian health care.
Is that universal healthcare?
Universal health care. But the thing is, with them, if she didn't have extra insurance, she would have had to use a, what do they call those, midwife.
Sure.
Okay. Now, full insurance that everything is paid for, or 90% everything is paid for, $49 a month.
My goodness, that's pretty inexpensive.
That's pretty inexpensive. And, with things like that, they've got pretty good health care. They've got as good as anything that we have. So, I mean, a lot of companies, if they didn't have to pay the health insurance for these people, they get that $4,000 per person back in their coffers towards profit, even if a person had to pay $4,000 more, it comes back to them. I don't believe the fact that we have to wait in line if we go to some government help in the healthcare. Because when my son was in France, my daughter married an Aussie, my son married a French lady. So, but when he was in France, he fell and broke his collarbone. He got in there. Within 10 minutes after he got to the doctor, they got it set, and they apologized to him because he had to pay American 49 cents for his pain pills.
Wow.
I mean, and when it comes to waiting in line. Basically, yeah, if you want plastic surgery, which you and I probably need, but
Right.
that's beside the point.
Right.
But if it's real plastic surgery that you need because it's a bad thing, you
Sure.
get in right away.
Say you were in an accident or something, you had disfiguration or
Yes,
something, you need that kind of surgery.
and
Right.
that would actually work right away on there. You know, now if I just wanted to get rid of my chicken
Sure.
necks thing, I'd probably have to wait in line for that,
Okay.
or that,
Sure.
or pay a bunch of money. So you know, so the affordable health care is really something that we need, and I think it's very popular.
And some people would say we should leave it up to each state. Is that a viable option? Even letting the states decide what to do with the healthcare?
So that means if I decide to move south to a state that doesn't have this, that I have to give up good health care.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
I think in this case, it should be, at least the states should be given money from the feds to do
Okay.
this. How they do it is their business.
Sure.
But I do believe that, I think Minnesota would be better off with single payer, one insurance company.
Okay.
Well, let's put it this way, you pay Minnesota, Minnesota pays the health insurance.
Okay. One insurance company, but isn't competition good too to keep prices down, or doesn't it work anymore?
Well, as long as you're allowed to keep prices down.
Right.
You know, when it comes to our medication in this state, or in this, you know, Social Security is not allowed to negotiate drug prices
Right.
for Medicare.
Right.
They are everywhere else in the world, so if I drive over to Canada, it costs about 3/4 less.
Right. That's why they were taking bus trips
That's why they're taking
to
bus
get
trips.
prescription drugs.
You know,
Right.
If we just make, negotiate prices with the drug companies, then that would become affordable.
Sure.
Okay, the second thing is, you know, they keep saying that, well, it would get rid of the research
Mhm.
on there, and then getting rid of the research, you know, I'd say 60 to 80% of all the research is done to a college, and then it's turned over to a
Sure.
company.
Right.
You know, it helps pay the college students, but so the research is still going to be there because we have great schools like the University of Minnesota,
Right.
you know, and Duluth and all these other schools that can do this research. And, you know, you've got the people there, you've got the professors there, they do the research, they turn it over to a company that finishes it up,
Sure.
get the patent and all there, and that's how that works.
Right. Do you think the biggest issue right now with healthcare is trying to keep people in the field?
Well, that's a big issue right now, especially after COVID. You know, my wife's a nurse.
Right.
So there's a lot of burnout in the field. And now they try to pay better, but you know, when you ask people to work double shifts, 6 days a week,
Sure.
you just can't do it forever.
No.
Especially with people, not right now, with people coming in and saying that angry, I guess
Right.
is the word.
Right.
So,
Right. And I understand it because we remember the 80s, how bad it got.
yes.
Anyway, I worked 2 jobs, 7 days a week for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
I was burned out after 6 months.
Yeah.
I had to quit one or the other because I couldn't do both.
Yeah, and it's terrible that people have to do that to make ends meet, to
Right.
pay for, well,
Sure.
even to pay for medical expenses
Right.
or pay for milk,
Right.
you know. So what we really want to do is just make sure that everybody can get the health care. And, you know, young on up, get the
Right.
health care that they need to do things, because it causes more problems if we have a sick population. Everybody hurts
All right.
when other people are sick.
And probably have to move on because we won't have all day here, but healthcare was one of the main things the first time you ran. Now you're running again. And did you say, well, I thought I heard you say public safety was big on your list.
Public safety is big on my list. Now, when it comes to public safety, there are a few things that you have to think about on there. I do believe we need more police.
Right.
Okay?
So you're not with, there's a certain group, this is defund the police, have safety people
You know.
do it. That, I don't think that works either.
Well, okay, we give more police.
Right.
We get them better paid. We
Right.
give them a little bit more training.
Right.
On there. You know, so on that's a big thing that we do need, and they need to be paid right. I agree with that. but we also have to take some of the things off their plate.
Right.
Like take things off, well, domestic issues, have somebody check on it then to see if you need a policeman, or maybe have a
Right.
counselor with a policeman. I'm not, I
Right.
don't have the answers. I've just been listening to the people that do this thing, and they
Sure.
say,
I talked to the local sheriff once a month, and he said they have to wear a lot of hats. They got to be a psychologist. They have to be an enforcer. They have to, take care. They have to know how to take maybe a wound or something, whatever it may be. And then sometimes they go through some very horrific things that they see themselves.
and I need the counseling after.
Yeah, right, themselves, right.
So.
But he said right now, it used to be really easy to find recruits coming out of Alec Tech. He said now he said one time they had, Brad, how many people that sent in applications for a job, and now it was just hardly any.
Hardly any.
Yeah.
And that has to change.
Right. Is it because police are getting a bad rap sometimes for what?
It's a combination of things on there. Yes, some police are getting bad raps.
But some police, we know that some police aren't nice. We know that.
Well,
Not everybody's a great guy,
Okay.
right?
Not everybody's a great guy. We have some people go in the police.
Right.
The police have to police themselves
That's right.
to make sure that the bad people are taken out
Right.
on there. I don't mean that in a violent way.
Well,
removed from.
Sometimes it comes down to that though.
Yeah.
It's like their life or mine, then
Yeah.
I'd have to choose mine.
Well, yeah, but when,
Right.
and I think it was a great thing that Minneapolis got rid of no warrants unless in very specific cases on there, especially since they've had a few accidents where they've gone to the wrong place.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then you take a look at it. What's the matter with having a policeman with a psychologist if it's a domestic call?
Right.
Okay.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
What's the matter with having a policeman with a special thing when they have a person that they know is mentally ill out in the street? We've had a few people that didn't.
Right. Yeah. Well, but I think one of the main reasons, and it's in a lot of things we do, is the lack of funding. In order to have these other people, it's going to take more funding, right? Or not. I mean, you can't just say, well, come in here and work with me for nothing because I need a psychologist to come with me. Right?
You do need the funding.
Yeah, we got to. It's somehow, it's a balancing act.
It's a balancing act. What do we have? What do we need?
Right.
What can we do to prevent the crime before the crime happens?
That's right.
Okay. So as we're looking at this, say, okay, what's the biggest predictor of crime? Poverty.
Sure.
Okay. I'm just going to take this apart here. When we're talking to politicians, when I go to a debate, we think of things like silos. Everything is separate.
Right.
You got the corn here,
Right.
You got the wheat here, and you got the sugar beets there, and to make something that you kind of have to mix this all together. Well, let's take a look at public education, which I think the Democrats have a better plan than the Republicans right now, because over the next 3 years, the Democrats have the surplus, $3 billion, and the Republicans want $32 million. So we need to put it in there. But you go to
doesn't seem that over the last few years they've been putting a lot of money, and what kind of results have we been getting?
that we are actually lower in real dollars than we were in 2020.
Really?
And, yeah. So
that kind of leads to my next thing. I bet you would like to take some of that $9 billion plus surplus and help the education.
yes. So when we're looking at the education, what happens if a kid's hungry? He's going to be disruptive in school. If a kid has some psychological problems at home, as you know, I'm on the board of the Hands of Hope
Right.
for domestic abuse on there. But if he's going through that, he's going to be a problem in school. He gets kicked out of school, he's going to be a problem for the police.
Right.
From grade on up. So, we take a look at this, and you have to make sure that we're treating the school right. I was talking to somebody last night, he's an elementary teacher. He says proper size for an elementary class should not be bigger than 17. I had said 15, he said we could handle 17. And he roughly has 25 to 30 kids in his class.
Well, that means there's somebody's gonna get left out of the mix because,
Yeah.
I mean, we had, when I went to school in a small town, we had 54 kids in a class split in half. So
Mhm.
that was 22 kids.
Yeah.
Well, actually not 22, my math is bad.
54 is 27, by the way.
Yeah. Hey, you did ask me to take a test. But anyway, yeah, so 27, which is quite a few when you think of it,
Mhm.
you know? And, you know, when you think of education now and then how it was, it's, there were some teachers I had that I wondered why they were teaching.
Well, that's gonna be true of any
Yeah,
job.
right.
Yes, and there are teachers that are burnt out,
Sure.
just like anything else, you know, the pandemic burnt a lot of teachers out.
You know, one of my favorite teachers was probably the one that was the hardest on me, as far as discipline, and he got the best out of me.
Yeah,
Not hard as
I'm not,
you know what I'm saying?
No,
No.
not-
But he knew,
he held your feet to the fire.
and he held me responsible for what I was doing.
Yeah.
You know, even though he did like the one answer, right? He had a world history test, and he wanted to know what it was when Rome burned.
Okay, it was after a fire.
And and he and he said, "Who played the violin while Rome burned?" And I put Jack Benny. I knew it was I knew
You know the answer.
Yeah, but I thought this is a great place for a joke.
Yes.
He gave me an NT on it. You know what that meant? Nice try.
That's
But
right.
no, besides, no, okay.
But you take a look at this, we have to think of things all joined
Right.
together. They're not separate items. You know, if the kids aren't healthy, if the kids aren't fed, if the kids are abused at home. If
Yeah, we don't
we
know
don't have
what's
good
going-
teachers.
We don't know what's going on at home. Do we?
So, I mean, that's going to cause problems and it's going to keep causing problems.
Right, and not every kid can, you know, Kirby Puckett had a great quote. Remember the famous baseball player for the Twins? He said, "I was brought up in the ghetto, but the ghetto wasn't in me."
Yes.
So what he meant is he didn't allow his circumstance to control his life. But that, not everybody can do that.
And when we take a look at this, you know, I believe that parents play a big deal in their kids' life. Of course, I have no respect for the parents that want to run the school but don't come to the parent-teacher
Right.
conferences, you know, or that they don't sit at home with their kids doing some homework. You know, if they just want to tell the school what to do, I have no.
So you believe that the parents should know what the kids are learning and what's being taught?
Yes.
And they should be able to come to a school board meeting and actually say, "I don't agree with you." I mean,
As long as they know what they're being taught.
Right, long as they know, exactly.
Mhm.
Because we've heard of the critical race theory. And what I've heard, it's not that great, it's not good, because it's blaming one sector of the country for everybody else's problems. But that's just
So that's-
one way.
No. Okay, I'm not gonna use that term.
Okay,
Okay. I call it teaching history. Okay,
Okay.
now, I was a football coach.
right,
If one of my players did something good, I praised them for it.
right,
If they did something wrong, I told them what was wrong and I had them corrected.
Sure.
If you don't know what's wrong, you don't know. I don't believe that what they're teaching in schools, and I don't think the parents actually know this either, that we're teaching that blacks are being taught to hate whites and that whites are being taught to hate themselves. I believe that what's happening in our school is that we are teaching them history. That little girl in Alabama, when she needed 4 US Marshals to go through there,
no,
okay, if your kid can't hear the fact that that happened, they're the snowflakes.
Well,
You're the snowflake.
but guess what? They can't erase history either. That's you know,
You can't erase history, but
but history repeats itself a lot.
I know.
And now we're in it seems like our First Amendment with free speech is if I don't agree with you or you and I don't agree, then all of a sudden there's some kind of a big thing that, I don't know, it's just not right. I mean, you and I don't agree on a lot of stuff, but we're friends, aren't we?
Yeah.
We get along.
Disagreement is good.
Because you should have a discussion.
Yeah.
And find out, well, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe you're right, or maybe whatever.
And I don't think one side or the
Right.
other is the one that's blaming that.
Right. And I don't
You know,
think
Matt Burke just canceled Disney because they voted against the don't say gay in school.
but it doesn't even say that in the bill.
No, it doesn't, but I mean,
That's what the Democrats have labeled.
no, that's what it was actually said. in one of the speeches on the floor.
Well, whoever said it, but
Okay,
here's the deal. I wouldn't want my kindergarten student or my first, second, or third grade child learning about gay sex or gender, whatever it
okay,
is.
and where have you seen that they said that they're doing that?
In certain states.
No, they're not.
Okay.
Show it to me. Give me 2 sources.
Well, I never looked it up because I didn't think we were going to talk about it.
Well, no, that's fine.
But
Like
I heard
said,
it on the news. I've heard
Okay.
it on all outlets. So
well, okay. The big thing here in Minnesota, 4 years ago or 6 years ago, I can't remember, when they were saying that we have to have proper sex education in
Right.
elementary school. A representative from the southern part of the state found the worst possible book to teach this, that talked about this stuff that you don't want.
Right.
You don't want your kids to listen to, and I don't want my
Right.
kids to listen to. But they're too old to listen to it now anyway. But I mean, my grandkids. So yes, that was a terrible book. But the way the law was statute, it was age appropriate as determined by the school board.
okay.
So what they're saying is, if you can't do this, we're taking it out of the hands of local people. You know, because if the school board should say, okay, we've got this is what we're doing, and the parents should know what they're doing with that,
Right.
they should be able to look
But
at
not
that.
every school board's right on with what they're doing, I believe.
Well,
It's-
I can't help that, but you're
Right,
taking the
right.
control out
Right.
of the hands of the local people when you say, we can't teach that because this is wrong, because I got this book that is terrible. If, you know, there's a chance that maybe 1 out of 12 million schools will use this book, and we can't let that happen.
Or you could flip it and say, the reason we don't have the Bible in school, because it might affect somebody in the wrong way or whatever.
Well, okay, no, they don't say that you can't have the Bible. It's just that they say that if you're gonna teach the Bible, you have to have a comparative to
Sure,
other religions, which I have no problem with.
I have no problem with it either.
I
But
mean,
it doesn't, it seems that it doesn't get that way sometimes. I don't know.
well, the people that say that they don't have the Bible in there for just saying because the Bible is wrong, you know,
Right.
they're no different than the people saying that we only teach
Right.
the Bible at school.
Right. You gotta agree that things have changed since we were young.
Yeah,
I mean, the way that society has gotten and culture and everything. I mean, if you read stories, people in the 1880s or so, even the 1500s, you know, that next generation is so bad. But
well, you go back to the Socrates.
right,
Socrates
Right.
said that, you know, everybody has said that the young kids are bad.
But- and I think one thing is we don't see enough of the good that's being put out there. That's
Yeah.
happening. It seems like the bad stuff gets to be put out front, and you know, I think I don't watch network news hardly at all
No, I don't
anymore
either.
because it seems like it doesn't. I don't care what side you're on; they're trying to push whatever they're trying to push. So it's like, well, I like those old days. Remember when they had
When we had Walter Cronkite.
right stuff like that. Good night, Chet.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what I'm talking about now.
Oh, yeah.
David Brakely and Chet Huntley.
Yeah,
Remember that?
Yes, and Walter Cronkite.
Right.
They were, okay, when they got rid of the fairness doctrine, where they
Right.
said news could be entertainment.
So it's
and,
tabloid news,
yeah.
basically, right?
Yeah.
We should
So,
probably, we got a lot of other stuff we could talk about besides this. Though.
oh, we got millions of things.
I mean, okay, we were, I don't know, you know how you've talked to me before, I go all over the map, so. But we were talking about healthcare, now this time we're talking about public safety. And, there's a lot of issues. Since I've been in radio and I've interviewed a lot of legislative people, and most of them are from this area.
Mhm.
They say that greater Minnesota tends to get left out of the process sometimes, that the metro has more representation, which they would because of more people live there. Do you feel a difference? Even they're not even talking Democrat, Independent, or Republicans. They're talking
Okay.
just segments of the country.
There's 2 sides of this story.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I do feel that we get left out of things, but rural Minnesota puts less money, gets more money back from the state than it puts into the state.
Right.
And the Twin
Okay.
Cities puts more money into the
Sure.
state than gets back from the state. So that's but that's because of need. it costs more for me to drive to home. Well, not necessarily when I was living in the city, but I'm trying to, things are so far apart
Right,
that the density, I mean, when you build a road,
okay,
in the cities, you're building it for 10,000 people. When you're building a road improving a road out here in the township,
well, it's not, yeah.
it's for 50 people.
That's why you don't see the potholes they have down there.
Yeah,
You get swallowed up.
you get swallowed up, yeah. But, I mean, so it's a hard one, yes, you know.
Well, it's kind of, you're on the broadband committee, right?
Yes,
And it's kind of like when you think of when electricity first came about. I mean, cities had electricity way before the rural areas. And the main reason was you could hook up how many people in a block compared to what you can hook up in a country block. So
Yeah.
co-ops were formed, and that's how we got electricity. Where I live, my parents got electricity in 1948, and that's not that long ago.
No.
I think you might have been born about that.
I was born in 1948.
Okay, so, but yeah, well, now when you come to broadband, it's the same thing, right? How can the company, no one goes into business to lose money. So how can a company, how can we get that broadband? Because we know, we've talked about this before. For greater Minnesota to survive in the future, we're gonna need this broadband,
Yes,
right?
they do.
And I think both people on both sides of the aisle agree with that. But how does it go about? How can we get it done? Now, we did have some grants here through CTC and the USDA, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yes.
But that only covered a short segment of the population. So you've been taking a survey, you've been giving a survey to broadband.
Yes.
Right. And have you had this chance to see any of it?
I have not looked at the
Okay.
results myself on there. It's a kind of mixed what I've gotten back so far, but it's the idea that we have some people that don't use the internet at all and don't see
Right.
the need, and so those are the ones that have been talking loudest
Okay.
to me, other than when I go to a meeting and everybody's in favor.
Right.
Okay, on there, and I have a lot of people that will complain that haven't turned in their surveys yet, that saying, why doesn't this work, or why doesn't that work? And I said, because you don't have a fast
Sure.
enough internet.
Just think if the internet wasn't here during the pandemic, when we had the really bad part of the pandemic, those kids wouldn't learn anything because they wouldn't have any way to get to correspond with the
Yeah.
teachers.
Yeah, and I kind of felt sorry for the teachers. I've written online courses and I've taught inline classes and hybrid classes and all that. For me to teach an online class, it would have taken me 6 months to get ready. To teach an in-class one, it takes me about a month to get ready. I mean, in class.
Sure.
And I felt sorry for teachers. A lot of them were not terribly computer illiterate.
Right.
It's being thrown right in the middle of that. I think that's a bigger reason that we have kids that are not doing well after,
Sure.
lost the time, is
Right.
because the teachers didn't know how to do this, rather than the fact
Right.
that, then there's the other problem, is the fact that we couldn't have daycare, and the parents had to go to work if you wanted to feed the kids,
Sure.
so they couldn't be there to help
Right.
the kids.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it was fouled up. The
Right.
whole situation was fouled up because we weren't ready for it. You have to think ahead when it comes to any of this stuff. In the computer industry, you have these two terms, TCO and ICO. ICO stands for initial cost of operation. Now, all the studies we've done is if I spend this much getting initially, most of the cost is done after you've got it started, and you have to support it. So this is the cost. If you do things right the first time, say, let's go up to there, the total cost comes down. So that was part of the thing, is we got to have better planning from the technical and the sociological side. I mean, we have to have people that understand both that and the other things.
Okay. One thing that you and I talked about before is, and I know they've been debating this in the House and Senate here in Minnesota, is the tax on Social Security.
Okay, the Senate just passed that. And actually, the Democrats 2 years ago proposed eliminating the tax on Social Security, and they wouldn't. The Senate wouldn't let it come to the floor because of the way we are in this state. If I were a senator, I wouldn't have been able to talk to the person that's the Republican.
Okay.
So what the Republicans do to a Democratic bill is put in a poison pill, so they can blame the Democrats for not getting
So
something.
it's both ways.
And if the Republicans have something that's good, the Democrats put in a poison pill, so I mean, we gotta get rid of that.
And Marianne O'Trevor, do you remember her?
Oh, she was a great woman.
She was a great friend of mine, and we used to talk about that. She says, we just have to get together and work together, because just, putting the line down in the sand and then
And then saying, hey, I mean, it's stupid. So right now, I am working on screaming at the people in the House that is the Democrats to get this done, and get it out there because, well, for self-interest, and-
Well, me too.
but besides self-interest,
Right.
you know,
But no, there's
who
other
are some of the poorest people in the state? Old people
right.
who can afford not to be
And this
taxed.
county is one of the poorest counties.
Yeah, until the hospital in Staples came, we were the poorest. Now we're the third poorest.
Okay, sure.
So
But we do have two wonderful medical places here.
we got this.
This hospital, Central Care, and then Lakewood.
Yeah, we've got, like I said, we've got good health care here. I sure wouldn't want to be out in the middle of North Dakota though.
No.
I don't want to have.
Right now either, because it's a major storm.
Well, we could use another 3 feet of snow, so I
Really?
can. Yeah.
Don't run on that platform, I'm telling you.
Well,
Well,
you always said, break a leg when you go on the stage. I'm saying, snow, snow, snow. So the gods will say, no, I don't want to give that guy snow.
Yeah, I understand. Hey, we talked about this a little bit before. We know the surplus just got bigger and bigger. It's like 9 billion plus. Plus, some people forget, I think the state of Minnesota has like $1 billion from the government for COVID relief they haven't spent yet. So they're going to Easter break, but we still don't know what we're going to do with that money. You said you like a lot of it go to education. I understand it. Where
Public
else?
safety.
Public safety. You mean helping police
Public safety is all
all over?
over.
Okay.
I mean, more police, more psychologists,
Even better highways.
better.
Isn't that safety?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, also, we'll just take Royalton, for example. They suggested that it's dangerous to have cars coming on. There's an intersection there that has about the most wrecks in Minnesota.
Is that where the light is? No.
No, it's down by the south of town.
Where Dairy Queen.
It's just past
Yeah.
there, yeah.
I understand.
And
Where you have-
because people are coming in at 70 miles an hour,
Right.
and people are coming out with their tractors. Okay,
Right.
so they're talking about a J turn there. Well, I don't think that is quite enough on there. I think the J turn will help on there where they go down and come in, it's a different place. But also, combining things, so forcing people to slow down before they get there too. So somehow, somebody that's smarter than I am, because when it comes to traffic safety and things like that, to say, what's the best way to get people to slow down and what's the best way to implement the J-turn? Nothing is just a one answer.
Right. A good way to get them to slow down is the presence of a police car, but that can't always be possible, because when you see a police car, if you're going over the speed limit, you usually slow down. Well, not everybody.
Well,
But-
even if I'm going under the speed limit, I slow down.
Well, then the roundabouts now they've started to come around.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know that when that song came out from the group Yes back in 1970. I'll be a roundabout. That's an English thing, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, in fact, I was at a roundabout up in Park Rapids the other day, and actually it's fairly easy. Actually, the first time I saw a roundabout was in Boston.
Okay.
And the first time I'd gone through that street before, it took forever to get through that street. And I think put the roundabout in, and all of a sudden, it was almost easy.
Right.
Almost easy. Nothing easy.
I only
in
went around
Boston.
10 times before I knew which one to turn. But
Yeah,
that's me. We talk about taxes, and you and I agree. See, we agree on something about taxes, Social Security. Well, now with the extra money, then $9+ billion. Now I know Governor Wells, that's a different guy. Governor Walz suggested $500 for a single, $1,000 check for a married couple as a rebate, and the Republicans said they want tax relief in the long run. So, what do you think about either one of those things?
I don't like either one.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
Okay.
tell us a little bit.
Yeah, well, I don't believe in one-time fixes.
No, because they don't last.
They don't last.
That check's gone.
That check,
Yeah.
and some of us, well, in my case, would probably go to some of the stuff that I've had to pay for in the inflation right now, but on there's certain things, yeah, for middle class and you, me, and people, I don't see why there's several corporations here that don't have to pay any taxes.
Right.
Okay, and I don't see why somebody earning over $400,000 a year can't stand just a little bit of a tax raise.
Okay.
Not big. I don't think they should raise any taxes on on us, and possibly would give us some tax relief.
What about businesses? You said about tax. Are some businesses, if they get overtaxed, will they start cutting back on other things?
No.
They won't?
No.
Okay.
Because we're the ones that buy things. It's an interesting thing. Cliff, when you and I get our check, what do we do with it right away? We spend it.
I give it to you. Oh, that was, take that off the table. Just kidding. No, I don't get a check, or I do. It's gone.
Yes,
Because all the expenses we had.
Okay. Now, it's, we spend our money. We have a little bit more money, we actually probably would spend a little bit more money. Now, if a person's earning $500,000 a year, he's putting some stuff back that doesn't circulate through the community.
Right.
So we gotta give it to the money to the people that spend it, not to the people that hide it.
Right. Okay. I had some other things too, that I was making some notes on. Now, do you think right now President Biden's ratings are very low?
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to hurt Democrats during this election?
Mm-hmm. Yes. But it's interesting. I'm trying to understand this because our unemployment is down to 3%. We've added more new jobs in the last year and a half than we have any year percentage-wise for the
But are
country.
those jobs, people that lost jobs are now back in the work field?
It's a combination of both.
So it's kind of a false narrative there, a little bit.
Okay, yes, it is. It is, but even after some other big recessions,
Right.
we never recovered this quickly before.
Right.
Okay.
And of course, people are,
And
right.
let's look at this unemployment percentages and the fewer number of new job unemployment insurance
Sure.
applications. Those are two things that have happened.
Right.
Okay, we're going to be, we've got the big infrastructure giving the tradespeople more jobs coming on. So I think he's getting a little bit of a bad rap. I think he's getting a very big bad rap on this because there's some things that he can't help. The price of gas, that has nothing to do with the President of the United States. Price of gas has to do with the cost of crude oil. As crude oil prices go up, our prices go up. Now, what you've also found is an interesting thing. Crude oil prices are coming down, and this is coming down much slower.
It always does.
Okay. Now, what is that telling me? That the oil companies have made bigger profits than they have ever last year, percentage-wise?
I had a story today on gas prices, and they said the few pennies that has gone down, it's about $1 million a day less spending on gas in the United States. Can you imagine that?
Yeah. No, yes, I do. I can't imagine that because
Right.
I'm a numbers person. But so you take a look at the gas prices. You can't. I mean that the oil companies are gaming us a little bit. I think they're doing a little bit of taking profits where we don't need to take profits from. The second thing on our inflation thing is the fact that we had so many things shipped overseas because of just-in-time manufacturing on there. And then when the pandemic hit, we couldn't get it all back from the, you can't get it. There's some computer parts that would take me 6 months to get.
Right.
And everything uses a computer now.
So why can't we be self-sufficient?
You mean as far as gas?
Or anything. I mean,
Okay, Why can't we be? Because
Like we used to be.
because the big companies get bigger profits by not being self.
Well, they can make more money by shipping it overseas and have some poor person get pennies
Yeah.
to put it together. What are they doing? Okay, I'm a musician. I know a lot. When I buy equipment, I try to buy it made in America, but it's really hard because you see, it will say made in the United States.
Mhm.
Yes, designed in the United States,
Designed.
shipped overseas, put together,
or
and shipped back.
you'll
whatever.
say assembled in the United States.
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw that out on TV the
Yeah.
other day.
We do that type of stuff. Now, another thing that's causing problems is we don't have enough truck drivers.
Right.
Okay, now, why don't we have enough truck drivers? Do you realize on the average, the companies is 100% turnover in 1 year? So that means every year that 2 truck drivers on 1 truck will quit. Okay, there's one company that's 300%. So that means that there will be 6 truck drivers for that 1 truck because they all quit.
Right.
Now, why are they quitting? One is they've put unrealistic expectations on them. They don't get paid when they're waiting for their container to get
No.
low.
No.
So they have to sit in their truck and not get paid for 18 hours.
Right.
And then they have to make their schedule. That means that they probably have to give up sleep, or if you had to sit during the day and take
So
it
they're
up.
cheating on the law in
Yeah.
order to get by.
Yeah, and then what is that, and then the dispatchers are told to make these guys drive. So they're putting them in a pressure situation. And then also the fact that they are advertising this buy to own trucks. Well, what happens is 98% of those trucks, the guys quit before they do it. So they've been paying all this in toward the truck, and then they don't get the truck. So because they just can't do the job.
Well, it's a good deal for the company because they have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
The guy's got all the expenses.
Yeah, he's got the tires, he's got the gas.
Right. It's one thing
And
after another.
there are actually cases in which truck drivers went to get their paycheck and they owed the company money.
Well, I can see that.
So, I mean, that's why we don't have enough truck drivers. It's not because we're lazy. It's not because we're not training them. It's because the companies are doing the nasty to them.
Not all companies are nasty, but there are some.
No,
Right.
but
We
there's
agree,
enough of
right.
them that causes a shortage. No, I'm not saying that. You and I, we agree that not everybody's
Oh.
bad.
No, I agree on that. I'm not saying they're all that way. But, I mean, it's like if you throw a bunch of apples in a barrel, one of them's gonna go bad eventually, But there's so many things, we're kind of, I feel like I come from a different world when I go to the metro and come back sometimes because it's totally different. The pace and everything. So I just, the rural area, and that's what I think attracts a lot of people to a rural area. What can we do to attract more people? Because first of all, we need housing. I mean, we're in a housing crunch right now, right?
Yes.
I mean, how can somebody afford to pay the rent prices I've seen on the prices they get paid for a job? And the top of the grocery prices have gone up because of the fuel prices, the delivery prices. I mean, everything just keeps going. It's hard.
It's hard. One of the things is on here is what builders in the cities found out that building houses that people can afford
Mm-hmm.
don't make them enough profit. So you see all these big mansions sitting around the cities, and it's I like my 3-bedroom house,
Right. Right.
on here. So we have to find a way to encourage the fact that says, now, Cliff, you and I are of the age that we may not be able to live in our house for another 20 years.
Yeah. Most likely.
Most likely, okay? And a lot of people are in our situation up here. So what we could do is possibly make grants or low-income loans to improve the insulation, improve the siding, improve the roof, get broadband out there, because the people that come up here want broadband. Okay, we need all of those to get that done. So when they move out of the house, the younger people will have something to move into.
Yeah, because you're right there, because a lot of times when you get older, you can't take care of something as good as you. Plus, if you don't have the income anymore, it gets harder and harder. Because I've seen people live in homes and when they moved out, they were not in very good shape. The homes.
I know, and see, it's one of these things is again, initial cost versus total cost.
Right.
If if somebody moves out of a house and it's tore, they have to tear the house down and build a new one. Whereas if 5 years ago, we would have done some repairs on the roof, they wouldn't have had to do that,
I'm gonna show my age now. My dad built a brand new house in 1959, stick built, $10,000.
Yeah, the house my folks built in Shelby, Iowa was $12,000. And they thought we were rich, but
it was a 3-bedroom, one bath, and it had a full basement, but it wasn't finished. But but we lived in a log house before that. It was a Swedish log house with sign on, and you'd think those logs were warm. it was pretty cold.
Yeah.
But what do you see? What's the biggest challenge for rural America right now, say Minnesota or even Todd County or this area in the future? I mean, how can we keep pushing forward and not fall backward and get left behind?
Well, we'd have to make sure that we set our goals correctly to what is important on there, not to fight each other. Okay, we can't have people yelling at the school board members. We can't have people going into the grocery store and getting mad because one person has a mask and the other one doesn't, and then they start yelling back and forth. Okay, first of all, we have to get back to being civil.
Oh, right.
We have to and I say get back to being civil. I'm not saying that, because at one time we were civil.
I think social media kind of plays into this, doesn't it?
Social media is.
Because no one's civil out there.
Well, the thing, how easy is it when you don't see anybody
right,
to write a slam?
Oh, it's easy, isn't it?
Yeah, or write a lie.
I feel so bad about these kids in high school that get
bullied.
Yeah, bullied through the media.
Yes.
It's terrible. Yeah. So, but we're aging, baby boomers as we are. That's a big segment of the population, and there are people who are saying, "Well, there's nobody to take care of these people."
Well, that's not quite true, but that's when it comes to Social Security, they keep saying it's going to be broke in 2040.
Well, they've been saying that for 20 years now.
Yeah. What's true is, if I were God and King, for Social Security is for people, instead of stopping it at whatever it is right now, 130, putting it in, stop it there for the bosses, for the employers, and raise it because for the people that keep taking it out, for the people that earn the money. And when I looked at that, if we just do that at the current income, we are fully funded through the year 2022. 21, 22.
Okay. So, and isn't it true? You're the numbers guy, so I'm asking this. If you keep working like you and I have, our Social Security out to a certain point quits growing. The amount you get each month will stop. Can it keep growing?
But it depends on how much you're putting into the Social Security on there.
Because I'm working full time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I put quite a bit in.
Yeah, you put quite a bit in, and yes, that it does add into your funds.
But someone told me once you reach 70 years of age, doesn't matter what you put in when you work, that monthly amount will never get any bigger anymore.
I would have to check on that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I never thought about it before. I would be glad to check on it.
Because that's what I would heard, and I go, well, that's crazy, because I keep putting in. I would think, okay, yeah, but then of course, I can't think that way. I was thinking, well, I should quit paying Social Security, but then I have Medicaid.
Yeah.
So that comes out of that, yeah, so. But yeah, there's so many variables and everything. There's a big picture, but that big picture has all kinds of little pieces.
Oh, and if every little piece works together to make it good or bad. And like I said, if we start being civil to each other, John Poston was the Republican representative. He and I get along with each other on there. And we said if we were both, he was going to, or at the Senate, he's not running at all right now. We said if we were both in the legislature together, we could probably talk and work together because we have a good personal relationship. I don't know if they have good personal relationships down in the Senate and the House right now, because of the mean-spiritedness of people.
Sure, understood. And the word compromise doesn't come into play. You don't want to compromise it if it's going to cause some kind of an issue. But compromise Isn't it good? Don't you compromise with your wife? Okay, you don't have to answer that. But I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Give and take.
Give and take is true in life all the time because, just because I'm right doesn't mean I can't change a little bit. And you're always
Right.
wrong, it's,
Right.
no, I mean, you've got good ideas, I've got good ideas. If we can meld the good ideas together and maybe give up a little one that's less important to me and you give up on a little one and less important to you, then
Sure.
it'll work out fine.
Hey, one other thing that probably affects everybody, I just want your opinion on this, illegal immigration. Now, we know that it's gotten crazy down at the border. And I'm totally for immigrants, 100% legal immigrants. What can be done? I mean, the wall, when you think, go into history and you look at all these other countries, they all had walls to protect themselves. Not so that people couldn't get out. Well, that would have been East Berlin, that would have been a different wall. But so people couldn't get in, that they didn't want in. And I'm not saying that immigrants are all bad. What I'm saying is some people look at them as they're not a criminal, but you're illegally entering.
No, you're not illegally entering, you're illegally staying.
Right. Well, yes, because what is it? If it's a certain length of time, then you're illegal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, they wouldn't be coming
Okay,
here.
first of all, I think the wall is a boondoggle waste of money because people will figure out a way to get in some other way.
Really? How can they get over that wall?
Most of our illegal drugs come in through our ports and
Right.
stuff, most of the illegal stuff.
But when you talk to the people who live in these small border towns, I don't care, Hispanic, Caucasian, whoever they are, they like the wall. A lot of them.
Except for the ones that lost land to it and lost their water to it. And the fact that it's temporary, it's very temporary. But I personally think, we're gonna disagree on this. But I personally think the wall was a boondoggle waste of money, that if we take some of that money and properly let the people into the country so we can vet them right away.
How do you vet 18,000 a day? It's crazy.
Well, it is crazy, but, okay,
Well,
now why are they coming here?
Because there's nothing in Mexico, apparently.
Well, most of
And
them are coming
Guatemala
from,
and all these other places.
because of the storms, because of
Right.
the danger, because of the
Well-
crime. Okay,
Did you know the cartel has taken over Mexico, basically?
yeah, we know that.
They became big business people now.
That's because we had a war on drugs and we were the biggest buyers of drugs during the war on drugs. But we take a look at this, they're leaving this because they don't feel safe.
Right.
Okay. What would you do with your kids if you lived in an area that didn't feel safe?
Well, I know what you're going to say, because these kids are coming with other adults. They're sending them,
No, there's a lot of them are coming with adults.
but a lot of them aren't either.
Yeah.
So that's a tough question, but I would never leave them.
You would have to stay with them, yes.
I would never leave
I
them.
would do too.
I would never leave them. I would try to find, but there's also the factor that a lot of these are hardened criminals are coming over too. You can't, it's always going to be that way. There's going to be those mixed in.
There are probably, when it comes to, we have a higher crime rate from people that were born, live, and are US citizens than the people that have immigrated here, either undocumented or documented, because they can be sent back. They don't want to do things that send them back. We have more crooks born in this country than we have people coming from over the border.
Right. Well, it's always going to be that way. It's just the way it is. But,
Yeah.
But still, what do you think of? I don't know. I have a lot of Hispanic friends in this town that I know, and they're hardworking people.
I mean, I'm going to get in trouble with this. This town would be dead without the Hispanics.
Well, Main Street would be totally dead.
Yeah. And as far as the houses, in a lot of cases, the houses have improved.
Right. And I've talked to some landlords that said they'd rather rent to them than somebody else because they get paid, they know it, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, the immigration thing is to build a system that we can handle for the people coming in, and plus the fact that people that are born here, we have a lower birth rate. We're not replacing the jobs with the people that are born here.
Right.
We need to bring people in, and a lot of, they're not taking jobs away from people. These are just, most of them are taking jobs that we don't want.
Right, because you don't see people wanting to work at a package house.
No, or spending 80 hours in the field down in Alabama, you know, doing whatever fruit stuff they do in California.
Right, right, exactly. And, well, I was my dad's slave labor on the farm. I can relate sort of.
Yeah.
But, no, but I had a place to sleep. But there are so many issues, you know, I don't know. It's a tough world we're living in right now, and to make the right decision.
It's always a tough world. It'll always be a tough world.
Right,
And we always have to think.
sure.
And I think we're probably eating up all of our time here, because it's now 1:30. We've been doing this for an hour.
Oh, my goodness. I thought it was 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this. I hope anybody that's out there enjoyed listening to us.
Well, maybe.
Well,
Well, listening to you,
So, no, I
try to hit just a few areas that I
Yeah.
know people are concerned about.
and if there's people on there, if you like what we did, I think we can do it again. So,
Sure.
and it's, I think it's important to know that we can disagree and be friends. I think
Right.
it's important to know that when I listen to you, I may change my mind, and you listen to me, you may change your mind, or we may not. I
Right.
mean, it's,
And the important thing is, if you hear something, investigate it, make
Yes.
sure it's what it is.
now you were talking about cable news, which I do listen to very little at all. But there's a website called improvethenews.org. What it is had a little sliding thing, and it says if you slide it this way, you're going to get the newspapers that do it on the right side.
Right.
If you slide it this way, you're going to get the papers that do it on the left side, you know, and then the ones in the middle, based on this great AI algorithm in it. That's basically when I double check things, I look on both sides.
Sure.
Just to see who's saying what, when, where, and how.
Right.
And then I have a chance to double check it from another source.
And, you know, when you think about a lot of what the government, there's so much wasteful spending. If you go back to what year was it? It was a Democrat who coined the what do we call it, mess or what? Pork spending.
Pork spending?
Yeah.
Pork barrel spending.
Yeah, he was the one, and he came up with all these things that the government was spending money on. It just didn't make any sense at all. I think we could somehow eliminate that. I don't know how you do it. There's a lot of, you know what I'm saying?
No, I know exactly what you're saying. It's the pork barrel spending on there. But, you know, one of the things is the way we get elected.
Right. I'm still trying to.
If I brought $10,000 into KUYL for a government things, you know, Al would probably like me then.
You get a lot of ads.
Yes.
No, but when you see politicians that go into office, they come out millionaires. So to me, it's special interest money. A lot of people get.
Well, yeah, lobbyists.
Lobbyists, right.
Oh, by the way, when it comes to that, you know, I'm 73 years old.
Right.
If I get elected, I promise to run no more than 5 4-year terms. Okay?
Okay.
I guarantee that I won't do more than 5.
You can't
Unless you
even-
really ask.
And you can't even guarantee that. Well, John, hey,
Hey,
I probably didn't do the greatest job. But
well, we did
I got so
what we
much
could
going
do.
on. Yeah, I'm just trying to pick your brain and see where you're at. What do you think?
So,
You know, and if you want to ask John more questions about what he's up to,
you can see me on Facebook right here.
Right.
AJ Peters, John Peters, MN is my Senate one. My phone number is 612-419-4033. And my website is ajp4mnsenate.org.
you
So
got
that-
it. That's all.
That's all
it.
I got.
Right.
So,
Well, thanks for allowing me to spend an hour with you.
yeah, and I hope you enjoyed the time.
And you didn't even hit me. That is awesome.
Well, you know.
We didn't hit each other.
No, we didn't hit each other now, but we are going to go one-on-one on a blocking drill. Thanks, Cliff.
I was a defensive end anyway.
You were a defensive end?
I didn't block much.
Well,
That was only 1 year in high school.
1 year in high school, I didn't do all of this, so. 1 hour and 4 minutes.
You could